Well, I just so happened to find the capacitor that blew up in here. It turned out to be one of the capacitors I used as a replacement for the motor run caps. So I got these little ones that were 3 microfarads rated for 250 volts. And I think they were kind of old NOS caps, new old stock. And one of them just blew up the other night. So you can see right here, kind of just blew apart at the one end. So that kind of sucks. But I had this whole different assembly of 4 capacitors put together just to equate to this whole can. So there's 2 output things with 2.8 microfarads and the other 2 are 0.5. And I think these red ones here are actually 1 microfarad capacitors because the thing had a bunch of these capacitors like this that were 0.5 microfarads that kind of went across in parallel where the 0.5 outputs were on here, so then that would total up to 1 microfarad with the 2.5 ones in parallel. In other words, there's 0.5s here, and then the center is marked C for the common, which is a shared ground. And these capacitors would just go from the 0.5 to the ground across here. So the total capacitance of that would just be 1 microfarad. So these small ones here were 3 microfarads to replace the 2.8. So yeah, at least this one blew up here, as I've already showed, and then the other one's here. So I suppose I may as well at least replace these 2, because the other one might blow up too and do the same thing if it's still old. If worse comes to worse, I could possibly just clip all these wires and possibly redo the whole thing if I need to. See, this just kind of came apart from that whole thing. And then you can sort of refer to this. So there's a bunch of wires on the ground. Then this part had pink and brown insulation. And then some other parts had the same colored insulation in a thick wire and a thin wire. So I just gotta double check all this. But then for part of the other can, I had one of these box capacitors here, and this was rated for 3 microfarads at 250 volts. So I should probably get another one of these to use for those. Because this is like one of those box capacitor kind of things that's meant for a ceiling fan motor. When I first bought this, I got 2 of them, and I only used that first one for the other set of capacitors, so I've got the other one kicking around somewhere, but I probably would need 1 more at least. And the other spare one I had kicking around, I'm not even sure if I can find it now, because that was a while ago. So I suppose I'm set back a bit further and might just have to order even more capacitors to get that all redone. But it needs to be done, obviously. So I'm just hoping it didn't do damage to the motors, you know, as a result of that one blowing up. So hopefully everything should be fine if I can get that all replaced. So I've still got this little drawer here of miscellaneous parts. So these are at least the 1 microfarad capacitors rated for 250 volts. So if I do tear the old ones out, I can have replacements for those, but yeah, I probably got to order the 3 microfarad capacitors again. So that's a bit of a bummer, but what can you do?